Hi everybody, Jo here again. How are you doing? I hope that your new week has started well. As you know, each month we have a challenge at Lavinia, and the theme this month is Spring Awakening. So I've come up with this little design. And for me, it's everything about spring. I love spring. We've got the flowers that are suddenly blooming and growing, and the birds start singing, the bees. You know, it's just all lovely things about spring. What does spring awakening mean to you? It could be the fairies waking up. You know, we love to see how you interpret these ideas. Might be you want to make a little book of spring designs. Just let it go. You know, you just think, let those crafty juices start. Oh, I can't wait to see what you create. You're such a clever lot. Now this, I've started. It's multifarious card and it's 5.5 inches square. And I'm going to start with my stamping. You know me. And I've got to be honest, this book of spells, when we got it, it was just, I just love this stamp. And I just think it's so useful. I know it's a book of spells and we have the wording with it and the lovely stars. So it can be a magical book, it can be a spell book. But also I'm thinking, you know, it could be, this is a book of lovely spring things for me. You know, things springing out of it. But you can make it what you want. It can be, I know a couple of our lovely ladies have used it for a Bible. It could be somebody's confirmation. It could be a christening, but it could also be a wedding. You know, think along the lines of what else. It could be, well, somebody's passed a driving test. Could you put an L plate coming out of it? I mean, I'm thinking cookery book, music. We've got music notes. Somebody likes music, a book of music. Anyway, I'll leave it up to you because you know what? You know me, I'll just rabbit on. The ramblings of an old lady. Anyway, so this book of spells for me, just so useful. I'm stamping it in black, just the Nocturne. And I'm actually going to come in with some low-tack tape. Now, you can make a mask with our masket sheets, but I've got to be honest, sometimes if I'm a bit short on time, I just use the low-tack tape. And I just want to come in and sort of cover the shape. And I've got a little bit there, look, I'm just going to go over that bit. There we go. And it's just me being a bit sort of, you know, saving a bit of time like we do sometimes. Now, I've got this lovely, for me, spring, the first. Now, I might be wrong, but I think one of the first things to flower in spring is dandelions. And it's really important we let them, if you've got them in your garden. I'm sure I read an article and it said, obviously, it's the first thing that the bees can actually take nectar from. Now, different parts of the world, obviously it's going to be different, but I'm sure I read that in the UK. So I went for this, and this is quite an older stamp, but it's lovely, dandelions too. And I'm going to have this as my main focal point. So I'm sticking with my black, my Nocturne. Because I used to, you know, I like my lawn to be green, and I used to pull mine up. But once I read this, I leave them, and I think, do you know what? They're beautiful. So I'm going to stamp this almost bursting out of the middle. As I say, this is my book of spring, and we've awakened it. We've opened those pages, and springing out of the middle is the dandelions. Beautiful. And then around it, I've got this lovely little stamp, and it's a good time to look at your collections. And this is from the flower collection, and I've gone for Versafine Clair. But actually, before I do that, thinking about it, I'm going to stamp the birds. Now, the birds are from the bird collection. And I know we've got various, we've got fledglings, we've got robins, we've got the magpies, but I've just gone for the generic birds, thinking that they could be like the little blue tits. And I'm just going to pop that masking tape back there a bit, and I'm going to stamp this one here. I just want them facing in. Bit like bookends. These are my bookend birds. And because the silhouettes, I just think they could be anything. I mean, I have various birds in my garden. I don't know about you. And again, depending where you live in the world, we have a jay that pops in. Obviously, we have the magpies. We've got the blue tits, the coal tits. I had some long tail tits the other day. Absolutely beautiful. The noise they make is just amazing. Right, back to the avocado. And I'm just going to stamp this around, sort of popping out. And this is very much a foliage. As I say, it's from the flower collection. But I just want it as a foliage type. Just sort of giving me a bit of background colour. Now, I just want to get the end with my ink. So what I'm going to do, look, I'm just going to use the corner of my ink pad. So if I just stamp up in the corner, I just get, can you see the top bit? So I can actually stamp that over here, and I miss stamping over my lovely bird. Yeah. I'm happy with that. I like that shape. I don't want to overcook it with the green. I will actually just add a tiny bit there. Just think for symmetry, we need a little bit. Yeah, that's better. I like things a bit sort of symmetrical-ish. I just think it balances better. But again, I can always add a little bit more as we're going along. Now this one, foliage set and golden meadow. And again, with this one, I'm just going to ink up in the corner and just get the top bit. And I just want to add a lovely bit of, now this could be any, I think yellow flowers. I mean, obviously I'm thinking daffodils, but I'm thinking of all those yellow crocuses. For me, that's my spring colours. Primulas, primroses, cowslips. I think here in the UK that the protected cowslips. Right, that's enough. I don't want to overdo that. But what I do want to do, and for me this was a game changer, I wanted to get some sort of movement so it looked like things were bursting out of my spring book. And this is off the foliage set. And I've gone for cheerful. And this is almost my cheerful sun rays. And what I thought was, look, I felt if I stamped it almost popping out, for me, that's my sun rays. I hope that makes sense. And it just, you can put a couple sort of down here so they're really shooting out, look, like fireworks shooting out. And then one more little thing, the little bumblebee. Now this, we've got a set of stamps, Bumblehums. Now, Tracy, don't look away, please. I've just cut one of these out. Now, I can still stamp it as a whole group. I mean, actually, I think it's a nice group without, but I could add this one back and stamp the whole group. But also, it gives me one to stamp on its own. And yes, I did give it an anaesthetic first, just in case you're asking. So it, didn't feel any pain. And I just want that lovely bumblebee just up there on his own. And I'm just going to give him a couple of little, so we can see he's flying. And I'll give that a blot. Because I'm just going to add a little bit of colour now to the flowers. So that's all my stamping done. And that's the way I tend to work in general. So what we'll do now is I want to bring in a little bit of colour. So I've gone for Sundance and I'm using a small, the number 3 brush. And this is just going to be my mixing palette in the lid, look. And then I'm just going to bring in that yellowy orange. My Sundance is quite an orangey colour, but I don't mind that. I'm quite happy. I like that sort of yellowy orange. And I just want to get that idea of colour around, sort of bursting out. Lovely. Yes, it is my Sundance. I did check. And then lime punch. And this is the zestiness. And I want that just coming out from the book here. So we've got that lovely zestiness, if there is such a word. And I'm just going to add that just nice and lightly. So darker at the base, and then as I've got less ink, but the number 3 brushes are fabulous for this. And again, that just helps to add to that, the colour. What I do want is, just with my brush, I want a little bit more colour here. So I'm not adding any more ink. I just want the idea. Yes, that just takes it up for me. Happy with that. And remember, use what you've got on your brush. Right, low tack tape. I'm going to take that off now. So just heat it up with my heat tool. And just peels off beautifully. Look at that. And we'll add some colour. So I've got my Modulars pencils, and I've got number 3, number 5, number 28, 15, 31 and 36. And I'm just going to lean on a piece of copy paper, and first I'm just going to add a little bit of colour to the bee, a little bit of blue in his wing, and then the orange. And again, because that goes with my colour tones, and then the yellow. Now, I'm not adding water. I could blend it with water or my clear Wink of Stella, but I'm just using them as pencils, and I'm happy with that. You see how the colours... So I want the colours in the book to sort of coordinate as well. So I'm just going to add a little bit of black just where we've got that shadow in that darker area. And then coming in with my brown. And the pages of the book are sort of a brown and then a beigey colour. But what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of yellow highlight. Again, just to bring in the colours of the design. And then just with this beigey colour, I'm just going to blend all those colours together. And this way, because the colours sort of match, we get that lovely cohesive design. And again, I'm just using this lighter colour to blend these pencils together. So I don't need my water. I could if I wanted, but I'm happy with that as it is. So next, we'll just add those lovely finishing touches. And you know me, my pastel pencils are on the floor next to Eric. So we'll first of all come in with the white and just add a little bit of highlight on my bee, and then just give my birds a little bit of a wing and a highlight. And a little bit down the middle of there. Lovely. And then with the black, we'll add some shadowing. Now, I'm just going to come in with my brown first and add a little bit of browny tone just to take away the harshness of that black. And then come in with the black. And then this is just a cotton bud, a biodegradable cotton bud. Again, I could use my finger, but I'm trying to keep the white space on this design white. Now, what I will do at this point is just add a little bit more under the main stem of the book, but also where we've got that bird, we'd have an extra shadow. And over here, we'd have that extra shadow. So, and again, it's worth just thinking about these things. It just makes your design look, you know, even better. And remember, smudging it will just help to fix it. And also, I think it looks nicer smudged. And then, I know you're shouting at me, so with my gold, my Signo pen, I'm just going to come in and add the binding on that book in the gold look. And I can just add a little bit on the leaves. I always think it's a nice opulent spring book, this look. It's got hints of gold. And I'm just going to add a couple, just so it looks, again, we're keeping that lovely cohesive design. So, a couple of little finishing tricks. And that's when you're looking for something that you can't find. My stickles, where's he gone? So, I've got my stickles and my white gel pen. And I just like to add an extra touch of white with my gel pen. So we're just going to add, and it just, for me, it just goes well with the pastel. Right, that can go. Stardust. Now, where I want my stickles, I'm just going to put a little bit, and a little bit here, 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 and here. And then we're going to do that dot and dab. So I've got an empty, the first ever stickles I kept it, and then I used a new one. Wink of Stella. I said stickles because I've written stickles on it, so I know what it's for, because really I am of that age. So this is my first ever Wink of Stella. When it was empty, I kept it because it makes a fabulous brush, because I just like to move my stickles around. Now again, you can use your finger if you wish. Me being me, I just find the brush very useful. And this way I can just get a nice light area of stickles and move it around, just following those lovely rays so we see that movement. Now the beauty of this is, because your brush goes back in there and it's airtight, it doesn't go hard. Normally with stickles being a water-based glitter glue, that would dry hard if it was a normal paintbrush. But because it goes in there, that'll be perfect to use again. Now, last little thing, a little bit more movement. I want it really to burst. So we've got to have the yellow sparkly Posca. Again, give it a good shake. And then just get myself a brush, and I just want to follow the direction of these rays. And look, I'm holding my Posca close, and that way I can direct the Posca exactly where I want it. Lid on, always important, get those lids on as soon as you can. And then there we've got that lovely finished design of that book bursting open with spring. I wonder what you're going to have in your spring book. And there we have it when it's matted and layered. Now, I think this would look lovely in a journal. Do you know what would be nice? You could do this, one for spring, one for summer, one for autumn, and one for winter. What flower would you put for each of those? I've made a winter book, so I already know what's going in my winter one. So I've got spring, so I've got summer and autumn to think of. I mean, autumn, you could go a bit Halloween-y, couldn't you? You could go with the spells or the pumpkin or flowers, leaves. Oh, can't wait. I'd love you to do that. If you do, please share it on our socials, Lavinia for You and Reach Out with Lavinia, and tag me in so I can see. And we could have a year in books, couldn't we? Spring, summer, autumn, winter. Right, that's your homework. I'm leaving it with you. You take care, and please go and enter that challenge. I can't wait to see who wins. Lots of love and hugs from me. Take care. See you again soon. Bye for now.